Hey everyone, so we are coming to you live after our very first Ride Along Show episode appeared on Bigger Pockets last Wednesday. So that was a 6-unit apartment building that Terrance bought last year, redeveloped it, and then turned around and flipped it. It's under contract now and about to close like a week or two, right?
Should close this week.
Yeah.
Most likely, yeah.
Since I forgot to mention, Terrance is obviously here with me as well.
That's right.
And then our guest from the show.
It's me,
Yes.
Athena Brownson.
Should we make you knock on the door and come in again?
Yeah, we should, definitely.
I think it loses its
awkwardly.
Yeah, I don't think it works very well on Facebook Live and podcast. But no, Athena, thank you for coming in. We wanted you to stop by, ask questions, join us here. We talked about it because a lot of things have happened because we actually recorded that show in December, I think with the original goal of it coming out, quarter one of that year. And then we all got a little busy with producing it. We had some learning curves there, and then damn COVID-19 hit.
And then life happened.
Yeah.
And then 2020 hit real hard.
And now it's almost 2021.
True.
Halfway there, yeah.
So I thought we'd come here, do some questions here. So Terrance, let's start off with, because we recorded this in December, like a couple weeks after you took it down.
It was freezing.
It was really cold.
Yeah. I mean, it was
there was trash
cruddy
everywhere.
weather that day. But now it's under contract and closing in a week or two?
Should be closing this week. Yeah, we're through all inspection, all due diligence, and they've got their financing in order. Yeah, so it all worked out. I think one of the biggest challenges was obviously leasing it up. Mm-hmm. We finished construction, I think, early March, had it staged and pictures, and then showings were set to happen the third week of March, and then the world shut down. So we had to do a lot of virtual showings and a lot of things online. And our property manager, we were able to get it leased up in probably 5 or 6 weeks. And I think in a normal world, it probably would have leased up in the first weekend. So that was really interesting. But Athena, I know you've been doing a lot of virtual showings and have had to pivot in a lot of ways your business. So
absolutely.
Why don't you talk a little bit about how it's changed your business?
Yeah. And first of all, congratulations on closing this week. That's so exciting. Glad to hear that you were able to lease it through a really challenging time. But I think through this challenging time, holy cow, could we be any more grateful for technology? I couldn't imagine trying to navigate the world of real estate, investing, both residential, rentals, commercial, without all of the innovations that we have today. I've been insanely grateful for not only, virtual open houses and 3D Matterport tours that allow buyers to walk through properties pretty much from their phone and computer, using Zoom for all of our conferences, buyer and seller consults. So obviously just really, really pivoting quickly and using this as an opportunity to, instead of kind of shy away and freak out, really use that as an opportunity to thrive and to step up and to really be able to serve our consumers to the best of our abilities, because people need shelter. You look at what the basic necessities of life are, and shelter, food, water, shelter, that's one of them. So to be able to still accommodate our consumers, our buyers, sellers, renters, virtually is a huge blessing. So I've been really grateful.
Yeah, it's one of the things I think that really stood out to me was, on social media, how active you were all the way through the pandemic, was just posting, being, I think, really outspoken about still doing business, still holding virtual showings, still listing properties. Mm-hmm. I thought that was pretty impressive. And, I think you used it as a way to stand out from other brokers and realtors that maybe were not as active during that time. Yeah.
And obviously health and safety is always our number one priority. I'm personally immune compromised. So I take this as, I do not take this lightly. I think making sure that everyone is safe is number one, but also not using it as an excuse to just kind of sit back, but say, hey, how can we help people and be there for people through this? Because when you look at what home is, a home is a person's safety net. It's their shelter. It's their security. Yeah. So making sure that, yes, we're continuing on business and, being active in the real estate market, like you said, which I was very much and will continue to do so, but, being safe as we're doing that. So it's been a learning curve, and it will continue to be so. It's going to be interesting to see how the next 6 months goes, but
it's definitely not going away anytime soon.
No.
So I'm kind of curious, since I know this is probably horrible timing, as mentioned in the beginning, but Do you have any like follow-up questions on the property we walked or thoughts about?
Yeah, I do.
Stuff?
So I'm so, we talked a lot about, because of my background in interior design, what the ideal floor plan would be. So we talked a lot about in the episode, what your tenants would be looking for. So how did the units come out? What features were your favorite that you think made them the most rentable?
Yeah. It's a great question. What's surprisingly, the 3-bedroom units.
Mm-hmm.
It is a great question.
I'm
the
really
people
curious.
on YouTube were knocking me because I said that too many times. But that's a good question. The layout.
It is
I'll have to come out with a new tagline. Back to your question. Back to your very intriguing question, Athena.
Intriguing.
It was very intriguing,
okay.
thought-provoking.
Yeah.
We added 2 3-bedroom units. So there were storage units previously from the previous buyer, and all we did was add a door, a larger door, a closet, and that was it.
Okay.
To make it a conforming bedroom.
Yeah.
And what we found was that at that price point, and I believe we rented those for $1,595. At $1,595 plus rubs, it was overwhelming. I mean, I think those 2 3-bedrooms rented the first weekend.
Okay.
In the first 7 days.
So that 3-bedroom floor plan really was the.
And I think that when we did rental studies, we actually could have charged a little bit more, obviously, since it went so fast. But people that are looking for 3-bedroom apartments are just rare. Most of them are 2-bedroom or 1-bedroom or studios in Denver, especially that part of Denver. And so then they're forced to look at either a duplex, a townhome, or a home, and those
there's nothing in
and those rates go over $2,000. So for
time.
something that was brand new, that had brand new heat and AC, and then with the bedroom count that they needed, I thought that was pretty interesting, and that was something that we learned, that there is a need for 3-bedroom apartments that are affordable. And we say affordable, basically $500 to $600 under what a Class A 3-bedroom rents for, which is over $3,000. So affordable under $2,000 was huge, and obviously we saw that was a big response from the market.
So an interesting thing, because we don't buy any Class A stuff as our investors. So all the new Class A stuff going downtown, that's too expensive for us. Cap rates are too low.
Yeah.
We always buy the B, C grade stuff, which is good cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a property manager a couple of weeks ago, just getting updates on how their rents were doing.
I'm so curious.
Everyone's I talked to 5. Everyone's basically at 95% or greater total rents collected for June. But one of the property managers, he has just under 1,000 properties under his portfolio. Mm-hmm. And he said it was something like out of the 12 properties they have vacant, for more than 2 weeks, whatever their mark is. Yeah. 10 of them were Class A condos downtown. He goes, the only stuff we're seeing change right now is that Class A stuff is not renting. And these are the
because the price points, right?
The price point, and then I know it's probably the price point,
and then people don't want to live downtown.
Don't want to live in a 12th-story building on a condo during a pandemic. I mean, so it's interesting, that the Class A is just having a hard time.
I mean, you think that right now with all the volatility and uncertainty in the market, just across industries, that people don't want to spend extra on a newer building. They're very price sensitive, I think, right now. Yeah. So
I'm curious though, because I did just read recently that Colorado in particular is getting an influx of both buyers and renters coming from a lot of the bigger cities. And I think that's because people have been cooped up. Yep. So, those Class A properties in Denver, although they are, majority are still downtown, I think I'm curious to see if there's going to be an influx in the rentership that goes with that, because those Class A properties that we consider high rent in Denver, you look at New York City and that's not even, that it's basically free rent.
That's cheap, yeah.
So I'm really curious to see if that evolves, because we're getting a ton of out-of-state buyers moving to Colorado. Yeah. So
a lot of renters too. Another property manager, she does a lot of stuff like Highlands Ranch, lives in single family stuff. She said she runs 4 New York families in 2 weeks, and she's like, "Do you guys know each other?" They're all like, "Nope." It was just they were all exiting New York for.
Mass exodus.
Yeah, I think honestly, as an investor, maybe we should all chat, but it's probably a great time for us to pick up some of the, maybe some of the properties that would be a little bit
to
more.
Go to New York and start buying now?
No, well, to go into okay, if you're down, I'm down. No, I was gonna say, looking at some of the Class A properties that aren't necessarily in the city.
Oh yeah.
Because that's that higher price point might be something that we see going
more demand,
faster. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So let's jump into some questions here. I just got some questions emailed, got some YouTube questions. So this is actually good for both of you. I forgot about your interior design background, Athena. So someone on YouTube asked, I wonder if open shelves in the kitchen will go out of style. And he's talking about, I don't know if you've seen the final photos, but like rather than doing full cabinets on the uppers, you did like open shelving. He says, continue, I tend to remodel more timeless because I hate remodeling. Once and done. And I have it comes to remodeling, I'm clueless. So
yeah, I actually just remodeled a kitchen, and we did a mixture of having some of the closed doors and the shelving. I think the shelving personally is timeless, but realistically, you have to be a pretty neat person to utilize that and make it look okay.
But what kitchen did you redesign? Like
it was a pretty high end, yeah.
Yeah, and this is so just put on spectrum. That's very different for like someone's, I'll say, $1 million custom home versus someone renting an apartment.
2 or 3 bedroom apartment. Yeah. It all started because we saw how much money we're spending on cabinets on an annual basis when we were turning 100 to 150 apartment units a year. It was like, man, we could save literally $600, depending on the size of the kitchen, $600 to $1,000 a kitchen by not doing upper cabinets. Every box is between $150 to $250. Yeah. So that was kind of where it started. And then as we started to try and do more things like in urban core Denver neighborhoods, we thought that it was kind of a good industrial look with the black shelving and to go along with black, kitchen fixtures. I could see how someday it might be out of style, but by then I'm sure we'll be redoing a lot more than just the kitchen shelving.
Agreed.
So
yeah, no, I think it's a timeless appeal as opposed to doing something that's really stands out and showy. And it is a great way as an investor to save money. Right. I mean, you're not hurting your consumer at all. Yeah. You're saving some money in the long run, and you could do something that looks really modern and appealing. Yeah. You just have to keep it organized if you're the tenant.
That's right. That is a really good point. And I like the idea of blending it. So we have tried to do like one cabinet or two cabinets on each side of the range or the vent, and then or the range hood, and then shelves in the corners and across above the sink if you have to.
I think that's a perfect design.
But we've actually had good feedback so far. I think that the key is the presentation. I think if it looks clean and new, I think people have liked it and we've saved money. So if we can deliver a product that still is functional and we save money and it looks good, I think that's kind of the trifecta. But
that's the goal.
Yeah,
you did it.
They did. Yeah, we did lease them up. So check.
Oh, I replied that was a great question on the YouTube.
You would.
Right. Well, I mean, it's YouTube. You gotta go in there.
No, I appreciate the comments and the questions, guys.
What else they got, Chris?
Yeah, bring it.
So this is from Alan. So he says, hey, I'm an HVAC contractor here. Have you guys thought about VRF for air conditioning if you want to keep boilers? They are highly efficient depending on the region of the buildings, but they're quiet and zoned for each unit also. VR, so Victor, R, Romeo, F, Frank. I didn't know what that is.
Alan, we're going to have Alan on the show to ask him to give us.
I think that it's a...
does it attaches to the boiler?
I think it's like unit? It hooks up electrically, I think, to the wall. And you just have them. They're really common in other countries.
Really?
You just put one in a house in Breckenridge. Or I could be totally wrong, but I think I'm right.
Google says they stand for variable refrigerant volume.
Is it like a little white unit?
Give a picture. Yeah, if it's a white unit, it's a mini split. But those are for like 400 to 600.
So it does look like a mini split. We got the wall unit, but it shows like.
But it attaches to the boiler.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to look.
We went with.
I have no idea what that was.
We went with window units, and the units have been chilly through the summer, and tenants are happy. And they were brand new.
That's awesome.
You did window units in there?
Yeah, we did window. Yeah, they went into not window unit. They went into the wall. They had the wall mounted where it had the.
But opening. Like the window units that you cut out into the wall.
It was cut out into the wall. Yeah, but the window.
That's great. Yeah.
What you just said is what we put in. They're the window size, but they were cut out into the wall.
I think as long as.
And it was already ran for electrical, so we just inserted them and
that's perfect.
Plugged it in.
Yeah. Especially now that we're getting it's getting hot already.
I really can't stand, it's one of my pet peeves with apartment buildings. I can't stand the way window units look. It has to have the cutout. And if it doesn't, then we would just cut out a section underneath the window to put them in.
I appreciate
Window
that
units
you
just
to
don't,
hear
yeah.
that, because I hate. I mean, I'll be showing $800,000-$900,000 properties
With window units?
with window units that
Really?
don't even
That's-
have.
that's
I'm not
so
kidding.
super
Like
tacky.
Wash Park
Yeah.
yesterday, I was like, and they're not.
Well, just because
even
they have the
done
old,
well.
they haven't done the new ducting yet, so it's just a boiler system. They haven't
Yeah.
updated the HVAC.
Yeah, but there's a way
To
of
do it,
doing
right.
a unit.
You can just cut out the brick under. Yeah,
Anyway,
I think it's just like, yeah. For me, I don't want to. I think it looks really tacky, so I choose
Exactly.
to not do that.
Thank you.
So Luis says, you guys in the video mentioned that cap rates in Denver will possibly compress in a few years down to under 5%. How do you think COVID changes that? So I replied on there, but I'm curious what you guys think, because I've got a very strong opinion on this one.
That's interesting. Well, cap rates have already been 5. We sold a couple buildings in 2019 under 5 current. That was 2019. So
I think I should probably like the median cap rate
yeah.
really pushing down.
Yeah, it just feels like as Denver becomes more of an attractive place for out-of-state investors, like we just talked about, people coming from New York, LA, Chicago, or even out of the other countries. I think last year there was something like maybe like over $100 million in multifamily traded to international buyers.
Really?
Yeah, I think Marcus and
love
Millichap
that.
put out a study on that. But so as more, I think, attention comes to the Denver market in all phases, I think residential, commercial, specifically multifamily. I just think because of migration, a lot of people want to live in Denver. There's a housing shortage. So naturally, people are going to be able to push rents, supply and demand. And as rent prices increase and as there seems to be more demand from other states, I think cap rates can only get compressed.
All right, so panelist number 1 says, yes, it will compress.
Yes, it will
Panelist
compress.
number 2?
I agree with Terrance. I honestly do. I think that as we're gonna be, and then you look at the affordability index. We look at the jobs coming into Denver. Yeah, I think cap rates will compress, definitely. But do I think it's going to be drastic? No, I think Denver's a desirable place to live, to invest, and we've got great jobs, and the affordability index is on point. So. What's your strong opinion?
I think it'll be incremental,
sir?
it is going to compress.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be the curve where it slowly goes down. I agree with you guys. I mean, I was hoping for a feisty debate.
I just don't. I mean, I'd love to debate. I just don't think we can debate that. It's just it seems like a sure thing.
I agree. And the other thing too, I mean, here's what I wrote. I said, yeah, I mean, all the data I've seen since post-COVID, like it's going to still compress. Yeah. Number one, we still have cheap debt.
Right.
Cheap debt fuels lower cap rates because you get that spread between interest rate and cap rates. Great. It's a 5 cap rate, but you're borrowing at 3.5%. You get your spread there.
Yeah.
And this is just from like me personally on the brokerage side. A lot of our multifamily owners we're selling to are Californians and New York investors that are selling in 1031 and bringing their money to Denver. And some of them just like it because of the metrics, but some are like, hey,
and the taxes. They're like, what?
Well, plus a lot of their kids live here, like their kids and their grandkids. Like, hey, I'm gonna sell this, 3 cap in California, and then buy a property. Then in 5 years, we'll move out to retire, and then build a portfolio, and that's the family business.
Yeah.
And the other thing is just we're in that housing and rental shortage. Like, I mean, we don't have enough of either one. So
Denver's never not going to be a desirable place to live.
It'll be a long time, yeah. As long as there's mountains and places for people to go hang out outdoors.
And good job creation.
Okay.
Yeah, it just feels like there is going to only be more of a housing shortage because I was reading another report. I forget who put this out. I don't know if it was Barron's or Forbes, but they were saying that construction for multifamily in Denver and the West Coast has been on pause because of COVID.
Oh yeah,
like there is not the number of permits that are getting applied for is way down. It was I think it was the West. It was like Denver, LA. Yeah, they pulled like the largest ones on the West Coast, but Denver was one of them, and it's down like 20%, I think. So companies that had raised money for projects are putting a stop to it because of the uncertainty. I think they just want to see what happens with COVID and if there's any trends. Yeah, because there was a school of thought that people would be like fleeing multifamily and going to be single family tenants, which we haven't seen. But there was that school of thought.
A few of those people for sure, but nothing significant to move the needle.
I agree.
And plus, in a year or two, as this eventually fades away, people will move back to being normal-ish. All right, so here's another HVAC thing, and this is going to be technical, but so Glenn says,
I love all the HVAC people on YouTube.
He's a mechanical contractor with 35 years experience. Bad idea on heating, as the best way is to go with forced air with air conditioning, as keeps the hot water boiler. And all right, I'll read this later. I can't.
Okay.
So bad idea on heating.
Yeah,
Best
Glenn.
way to go is forced air with air conditioning. It keeps the hot water boiler and install separate water to heat pumps and use the boiler to temper water control and run the heat pumps. I can't even read that. He's wrote in shorthand for YouTube. I don't even know enough how to
I appreciate his
translate it.
passion and vigor for his craft. The problem was we purchased the building and it already had a new boiler. So naturally, we're not going to spend
Well, there we go.
additional money to change it to forced heat. For my primary residence, I prefer forced heat. For apartments, boiler is just so much cheaper.
And they last forever.
It's more efficient and they last forever. So it's hard to go against that. Yeah, exactly. They can run forever. Yeah.
So I forgot. So that was a brand new boiler.
That was a brand new boiler. Sorry, Glenn.
But thank you for your input.
Thank you for your involvement in the conversation.
Yeah.
So Tom said tenants should pay for electricity and heating they use, not the landlords. If the landlords pay, then the tenants do not care about saving. If the tenants pay, they care what they use and they will not waste it. So I agree with that thought process, except it kind of matters how the building's set up.
How are you going to meter it?
That's right.
Yeah.
And this was metered, it's separate electric, but one gas and one water, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And trash, yep.
So let's talk about that because so basically that's pretty common here in Denver is to have separate electric for all the units.
That's right.
Gas is, I don't know, I mean, some are separate.
Split. We've had it split. It depends on the part of the city and when it was built. Just because of when this property was built, I believe in the 60s, they weren't doing separate gas meters.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of I can't think of one if a single gas meter or separate or individual, if one's more common than the other. Have you?
I think it's about split.
I would say about 50-50.
The stuff we've done in the suburbs, I think about Littleton, Lakewood, Aurora has had separate gas meters and electric, think about Bannock and and then seems like Central Denver, more 60s and older, is single gas. Yeah, and that's why, Tom, what we do there is just, I mean, in this case, I agree with you, but the building's already wired that way for the, $30,000 or $50,000 or whatever an insane number it costs. It's not worth it. Yeah. That's why we bill RUBS, which is we don't do a direct, it's an estimated utility bill back. The leases are written there. Hey, if you use way more than we expected, the landlord reserves the right to increase it. That's right. But usually, they're within a few bucks and they're good enough. Yeah.
That's a good question, though.
It's a great question.
That's
right.
All right. So Zev says the expenses on this deal seem understated. And I believe Zev is referring to the rehab cost. A property that old, there's no way it only requires kitchen and a bathroom model. You're guaranteed to have mold and damp issues, pest control issues, if not outright damage, roofing and ceiling issues, plumbing issues, flooring issues. What's the point of new kitchens if you don't do anything else?
That sounds like you're not doing your due diligence if you're.
No, he's right. We redid the whole thing. We redid everything.
Because I just don't, and that's something we couldn't show in the video was all the other.
We didn't have to rewire the electrical.
We
knew going into it. Yeah, we didn't have to rewire the electrical, but we did have to run all new plumbing for the kitchens and bathrooms. We did all new flooring. We actually had to level some of the floors. I think there was some settling on the first and the third floor.
Always in Colorado.
Always. Especially on that, was on a slope. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's right. We did have to do everything, and we ended up spending, I think, close to $180,000 to do everything.
Is that what you think? Right around?
Yeah, it was right around. Yeah.
But these are items that when you're going in before you're purchasing
we knew
a property, you're
during due
before
diligence.
You're acquiring it. Yeah, you're doing your due diligence, knowing it's just something that didn't, we didn't line item out in the show.
Yeah, there was
which would be an interesting sequel. Maybe the next time we go into the nitty gritty of what the due diligence is. And
a full budget. Full budget. We did put that on the financials though. We
put the rough number.
The rough number, but not the breakdown.
Of the breakdown, so maybe we start doing that. But that's also just part of the problem with, we're out there recording for 2 hours, but it's cut down to 15 minutes. And a lot of stuff gets left out. All right, so
let us know what you want to see.
There was no pest control though.
Yeah, we don't have termites and stuff in Colorado.
We don't have, mold's pretty rare around here too.
You'd be surprised.
But nothing like Florida and South Carolina. If there's active leaks or stuff, definitely. But in other parts of the state, there's termites everywhere and mold everywhere.
It helped us that the units were vacant because there was no running water and there wasn't food for there to be roaches or bed bugs or anything like that. So,
all right. Here's kind of this will be an interesting question. Maybe in 10 years, this video will be relevant. Real estate investors are going to be put through hell on earth for probably the next 5 years and 5 years to recover. Else, we will hyperinflate, then owning real estate would be essential to maintain your net worth.
What was the question? That was a strong statement.
I know.
I didn't sense the question.
I'll read it again. So maybe in 10 years, this video will be relevant.
This right here. Well, we're going to answer that.
Okay. Real estate investor may put through hell on earth for probably the next 5 years and 5 years to recover. Unless we hyperinflate with the Fed pumping money in the system, then owning real estate will be essential to maintain your net worth. So extremes, they're like, hey, we're going to live through the dumps,
right?
Or it's going to be the best investment ever because we're going to hyperinflate. I think we'll be a lot more in the middle on both of those. But you were pointing something on the wall, Athena, that no one can see.
Okay, so something that I am forever grateful for is my background with Your Castle and Lon Welsh's data that he puts out on the Denver market in particular. So we have 30 years worth of data. Of course, we've never experienced a global pandemic, but we've had large, real estate crises. And you look at Denver compared with the rest of the country, and you look at the annual depreciation during those years,
right?
And we are not going to go through hell on earth because of the desirability, the jobs, the amount of people that want to be in Colorado. So I don't see it being we don't have the extremes that the rest of the country has.
And I think it depends to the market. Some markets, the populations are decreasing, jobs are decreasing
big time.
But that's not. The pandemic, I think, will probably maybe accelerate some of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But I agree with you. In Denver, we'll have our bumps along the way. You might be an unfortunate tenant that trashes a place or doesn't pay rent for 5 months. But overall, I don't think we'll be through hell.
Yeah, and hyperinflation is a pretty severe, reaction. But I do agree that there could be inflation due to what the Fed has done with the PPP and with unemployment and how they have pumped a lot of money into the system to keep money flowing. So the GDP doesn't just fall off a cliff.
No.
But I don't know about hyperinflation because then the Fed would just raise interest rates. If the economy gets too hot, then they'll just raise interest rates to cool it off, and that's why we have a Federal Reserve to try and balance keep things in check.
And I am definitely not an economics brain child or anything, but I think since the U.S. dollar is the world currency, basically, that's not going to hyperinflate.
Yeah.
Now maybe 50 years, 100 years when
Bitcoin takes over.
I was going to say the Chinese, but maybe Bitcoin. The Bitcoin and Chinese were the aliens.
I'm going to go the robots.
The robots?
Or aliens.
Yeah. Bitcoin's making a strong push recently. I think that they might be in the lead. But anyways.
Really? Okay. That'll be another topic.
We just hit 10,000, Chris.
I just downloaded Bigger Pockets. Just kidding.
She's on.
Yeah,
I am on Bigger Pockets.
Because at the end of the video, we did give you a little bit of grief about that.
You should have. And now I'm a pro. I actually got
Did you pay for the pro? Or you're just a pro of navigating?
Well, why you gotta call me out on Facebook Live, Terrance?
Well, you said you were a pro. I didn't know.
I meant a pro at life, but now I'm gonna have to go be a pro on Bigger Pockets. But I did have an investor say to one of my business partners, I just was on Bigger Pockets and I saw Athena's episode. I was like, whoa. So shout out Bigger Pockets. Now I'm gonna be a pro. I have to go upgrade my membership. You should too, everyone.
We just used peer pressure to get her to upgrade her membership.
Thanks for peer pressuring me.
Okay, so here's just a general investing question from Noah. Noah says, hey, I'm 18. I'm trying to convince my dad to help me get started. Cool. I have the knowledge, I think, and I just need his help with the finances. He doesn't trust the market, especially with the events of 2020. Hopefully I'll be able to get something soon and show him it works. Right now I'm looking at a $50,000 property that needs to be fixed up.
Where?
Fixed up really well. Not in Denver.
Yeah.
Then turn the garage into an efficiency living space, create more value and income for a better appraisal. So aside from aside from the $50,000 property, I'm curious to your thoughts. What do you guys say to Noah for his advice?
I love it. He's looking for, is it a house hack or his first investment property?
Well, that's what I asked in the comments. Yeah. I said, dude, go house hack number one. That's my first thing is you're 18, you're tight on money, which is what most 18-year-olds house hack it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my advice, my sister just moved back to Des Moines from LA because it was so expensive and she really wanted to get into real estate and specifically home ownership. And that's been my advice to her is buy a house, either with an ADU, a separate basement, or with enough bedrooms, you can rent them out separately and still not be uncomfortable. You know, she's, you know, in her late 20s or whatever. I don't even know her exact age. But the point is, in her phase of life, she doesn't want to have a bunch of roommates. And so can you have enough bedrooms to still live a comfortable life, rent out a couple of bedrooms, or have a separate AU to create enough income to where they're paying down your mortgage, and it's a great first time investment. And then in 2 years, you can sell that tax free and go buy something else, or you can just keep as a rental. That's right.
That's what I did, honestly. My first property, I think I was a little bit older than Noah, but you know, I convinced my dad very grudgingly it took me a long time, but it was, look, trust me, like, we're going to buy this property. I'm going to have 2 roommates. They're going to pay the mortgage off. I'll fix the house up slowly. It needed some love, but we fixed it up. I had 2 roommates paying my mortgage, and we sold it 2.5 years later, and at a big profit. And I was able to roll part of that profit into another property to do the same, and then a rental property. So it's an incredible way to start your real estate portfolio. It'll teach you a lot if you're living in it.
Right.
I think that's the key, is that if you're moving in, you're going to be learning through the process, and that's invaluable knowledge.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, and it's such a low risk way, because you already have to either pay rent or a mortgage anyway. So why not invest in yourself, create an opportunity to create income by having roommates. And
don't pay someone else's mortgage, pay your own.
Yeah. Especially, like, I mean, if you're in a position like, you know, some people are, hey, you can borrow money from your parents or family.
Yeah. Right.
Cool. I mean, if they were going to look at like the bank, if I'm borrowing for you, Terrance, to go buy a $50,000 property in Kansas and you live in Denver, or Athena, you're looking to buy a property that you're going to live in, you're a lot less risky than you are, Terrance, because you're going to live there, and that's just a lot less things to screw up.
And I'm just less of a liability in general than he is. Just kidding.
That's debatable.
Just kidding.
No, what's interesting is I think the government, for first-time home buyers, and I'm not sure if there's an age restriction, but there's a lot of programs that Noah could look into for a first-time home buyer, and that would qualify even 4-unit or less, right? So you could buy a home, a duplex, triplex, or a fourplex, and get, I think, as much as 98 or 97% of it financed through the government.
Yeah, and I know, especially a lot of times, like states, or at least in Colorado, similar states, you know, a lot of times states have like lower programs too. Like, I forget what they are here in Denver, because we can't really use them because they're really hard to make work in the seller's market. Like the Metro Down Payment Assistance Program.
There's a lot of programs,
Yeah, you can put like a couple $1,000s down and buy a single family.
Yeah. I think there's even a program where the government will cover your down payment.
Yeah.
Down payment assistance program. Yeah.
Definitely.
So Noah,
it's just a matter of qualifications. And
I love the vision from Noah, and I think he should pursue that. And I think he could. Who would you recommend him talking to? Either someone that knows the loan, the government loan, a lender, a local lender there, or a really knowledgeable real estate agent that can connect him.
Yeah, financial advisor would be a good person too.
Let's see.
Build your cabinet of experts.
That's right. Put together your team, Noah. Young.
Yeah.
I think the best things in life come when you're uncomfortable. So
that's a good point.
All right. So Aaron asked here a few days ago, what does your deal acquisition look like? I am always curious on how teams like yours are acquiring these value add properties.
What was the initial question?
What does your deal acquisition look like?
Deal acquisition.
And so we'll be talking about multifamily, because doing multifamily is very different than doing single family. But Terrance, I mean, this could be hundreds of hours of class right here. But like, what's the punchline for finding deals like this?
Finding deals. Well, it took a long time. I mean, the guys that brought me that deal, I first met in 2017. So we're talking 3 years of a relationship of getting coffees, having phone calls, touring properties. I mean, I think one of the things that I think the punchline is, when brokers call you to say they have a deal, even if it's not a deal, it doesn't hurt to go and walk it with them and to do an underwrite with them. Every week, I still do that. Yeah, because it kind of I think it creates goodwill, and it helps to educate, kind of hone their brain to think like your brain of what you're looking for in a property. So I'll go through it line by line and say, here are the things that don't work for this property. Here's what we're looking for. And the more conversations you have with brokers that are basically educating them on what a deal needs to look like for you, you get closer and closer. And so it just took time and building relationships, patience, something that we continually pound on the show and everything that we do is just patience. I think building relationships and patience. I mean, Athena, when people come to you, right, flippers, and they're saying, or investors, and they say, hey, I want this. I mean, how long does it normally take from the time you have your first conversation to getting a deal? I mean, it's not like you can snap your fingers and find someone a deal.
No, absolutely not. And, there will be the opportunity every once in a while where we're lucky and we find the perfect property that fits that investor's box readily, but it can be, more in the residential sphere I speak from, it can be anywhere from 6 months to over a year. But the key is, and something I love about working with you too, is just building relationship, but also being very direct and understanding what your client's needs are. Like this is communicating exactly, I need A, B, C, and D for this to work. And that way, when I have that knowledge of what my client needs, every conversation I'm having with other agents, every network I'm connected with, I know exactly what they're looking for, and I can bring them off market opportunities, which is pretty much, I assume, almost everything you get.
That's a great point that you make, is that you can't move the goalpost on the broker. You have to, how frustrating does it get for you if every time you talk to a client, they're changing their demands?
Yeah.
You just give up, right?
They get fired.
Exactly.
Chris fires them, and Athena, I don't know do you fire people? Chris gets pretty harsh.
I would love to hear you fire someone.
Anyways,
I rarely fire someone, but
she keeps them in the pipeline.
I'm getting, I'll get there.
Well, I
get your point though. Is you can't move this.
But I can't invent the
I want
perfect
this
property.
I'm like, people say I want to buy a 7% cap rate property with property management in there. That's a 3-bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, cool, here it is. Oh, I want this now. I don't like it. Well, no, you told me you want this, and this. And sometimes it's education. I'm good with that. But when they move the goalpost 5 times, I'm like,
oh, well, that's ridiculous.
All right, dude. Like,
clearly you're not a buyer.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Here, I brought you 5 deals. There you go. If you don't want one of them, then.
But that's my point here. You perform. When people bring you deals, a lot of people say they can do it,
right?
But you actually perform, and you can perform quickly.
That's true.
And that's a big difference here. So you spend a lot of time developing relationships and patience, but then you perform like, hey, I can raise this capital, and I have these relationships with a banker. I have my GC out there 2 days, walk the property. Like, there's a lot of big moving parts when you want to take down this is even a 6-unit multifamily. It's still a lot of moving parts. Whether it's a 6-unit or 6-unit, you're raising capital. You got GCs walking through. You got banking relationships. Like, it gets complicated, and you have to perform on that stuff.
That's a good point. I think for investors that are starting out there and wanting to find this kind of deal in the future, I think one of the words to think about it would be empathy. Is you have to put yourself in the position of the person that you're talking to. A lot of these people that are finding deals are on 100% commission. And so if you waste their time, they're not going to work hard to find you a deal. But if they see that you're actually going to perform and that you're serious, then they will, I think, hustle. And you can attest, hustle and move mountains.
Out there knocking on doors.
That's right. And that's how a lot of people are if they have the confidence that someone's actually going to perform and do what they say.
Yeah.
And I think that has helped me a lot, is just trying to put myself in the position of the person I'm talking to, that I'm trying to motivate and encourage to help me find a deal, is giving them that confidence along the way that, hey, if you find this, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. You're not just wasting your time and spinning your wheels. Because there's no worse feeling than someone working hard, doing everything, jumping through all the hoops, meeting every single, checking every box, and then you get to the closing table and they're nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Or, just to even sign the contract, sign the offer.
Which happens all the time.
Yeah. And I think that is one of the things that has helped us, is that when people bring us those deals, we're really quick to sign and to execute and to move forward. And I think that's helped us create goodwill and just give brokers the confidence to go out there and find
the
right deals. Yeah.
And I say that because, I'm on the transaction side.
Right.
And I have my buyers, my clients that can move very quickly. And the clients if they can't move quickly, speed matters in investing.
That's right.
Speed really matters in the way the current Denver market is.
Oh my gosh.
If this is a great deal, someone's going to snatch it up really quick.
Yeah.
100%.
So here's a great, sorry, you guys done with that?
I think we answered that thoroughly.
Yeah. So Jerome, because I saw a view of I saw the video of the demoed unit. Was there an actual walkthrough of the finished unit? Did I miss it? So
episode 2.
Well, we did finish the unit. It's leased up. It's not walking, but we should actually
do some afters.
We should at least post some photos and videos to the Bigger Pockets blog post.
Yeah.
Because we can't update the YouTube video.
I have those on my phone.
Yeah, so let's get those up there. So if anyone's
today.
listening out there wants to see it, we can put the link on there.
It's a great idea.
I'm sure
it's a great
Ellie has some videos or walkthrough, or you just
Yeah, we have it. Yeah, I have the whole thing.
Yeah, let's post up there because that's a great idea.
Great idea. Great
because
comment.
we've seen it, but I forget. It's just
right.
So Jerome, great question.
Great.
That was not me.
That was a great point. It
was a great idea.
I can't wait to see them as well.
All right.
You haven't seen them? The afters?
No.
Oh yeah.
Well, check out the blog.
Got them.
I'm gonna go check out the blog post
after you upgrade your account.
Yeah. After
check out the blog post.
It's for pro members only, right?
Can't sit with us. Just kidding.
Let's see.
Athena, I'm curious. Since the walkthroughs and since we've been having more conversations, has this changed how you look at properties or how you talk to clients, or has it helped you with any conversations with clients having this kind of experience of being able to walk through an investment property, see how it works? Yeah,
absolutely. So as I said in December, I'm starting to expand my client base to have more investors. And I already had an idea and a knowledge base.
Because your dad's an investor.
Yeah, exactly. Of what tenants are wanting, what quality, but to have more of the understanding. And so that's something that Bigger Pockets has so many educational resources for, which has been a big asset to me, is really understanding the numbers, understanding where my clients should cut costs, where they shouldn't cut costs, what their rents are going to be, what parts of town they need to be in, where their dollar is going to go the furthest, and be the smartest investment for them. So absolutely.
I think that's great, just because you're going to meet so many people, and you never know through Compass and just through all your relationships how you're going to, next time you're going to meet an out-of-state person that wants to buy single family homes or maybe buy duplexes and fourplexes.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think being able to be well versed in what those terms mean and how to identify a deal and how to underwrite a property. So I'm glad that that's been paying off for you.
Yeah, and that's great. Thank you for being a great resource. Obviously, always whenever I have something that I don't know, the best piece of advice I ever got was, if you don't know, ask.
That's right.
So if I don't know
simple
something,
but profound.
I'm gonna be, I call you, I call my resources, I say, hey, fill me in.
Best advice in the world.
Yeah, like don't make something up.
And I've always told my salespeople, employees in the past, if you don't know something, don't make up stuff.
No, don't make it up. Just say,
hey, I'm not 100% sure.
I know someone who will know, though.
I'll get back to you later today.
That's the best piece of advice.
And I still say it all the time myself. I'm like, that's
because people can tell when you're just making something up.
Yeah, we can't.
Or
know
you just
everything.
inadvertently just say something, and then later you have to like walk it back,
or get sued. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah.
All right, so I'm looking at time. We got a few minutes left. There was a question. Sorry, my computer just.
Is it about my vibrancy?
Well, these are YouTube questions, so.
I'm just kidding.
So Dallas says, hey, would you guys partner with a newbie, a new investor who is able to bring a $1 million loan to the table? So I responded to him, what's your thoughts on a $1 million loan from a newbie?
I'd need to know more details about the $1 million. I need to know the terms. Is it 20%? Is it 2%? And, I need to know the terms in more detail. We probably would not do a deal that large with someone that we didn't know. I'd probably want to build a relationship with them first, see
I'll sell you
what they're like and what they look for and how they handle when things don't go well. But I think if someone that has $1 million and is looking to lend it, I think that can be a really valuable way to get into some deals. And I could either connect him with someone, or we could build a relationship, and down the road, if it made sense, we could definitely work with him. But I think the key would be having more information, understanding more of what he's looking for from the capital, and just getting to know him, I think, a little bit more than.
Well, plus, in my mind, it pops up is he lending out the $1 million as like a private investor, or you're just saying, hey, I can get a loan that's still going to require from a bank?
I was assuming he was like the private lender.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and that's a big difference there. And in my experience, finding the money isn't really hard right now. It's finding the deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the current market, especially with rates so cheap. Like even during COVID, we're still finding lots of banks that want to lend, whether it's on big stuff like this or small stuff.
Yeah, I think if he has capital and that's what he can bring to the table, then there's definitely people he could partner with. And I think that's the right idea.
That's the conversation.
Yeah, and I think just being a little bit more clear with the terms and what he's looking for, and I think if he's clear about it, I think you could definitely find a way to partner with someone that doesn't have the capital.
Yeah.
All right.
Everyone's got to start somewhere.
That's right.
A couple other questions here. AJ says, this is referring to the second half of the video where we did the financials. Where did the total equity of $686,000 come from? We don't have those slides pull up in front of us.
If I remember correctly, the 686 came from the down payment, which was roughly 20 to 25%, and then appreciation, so rent growth over the 5 years, and then depreciation. The tax, the debt pay down.
Yeah.
Oh, the debt pay down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
There's a tax incentive there for the depreciation as well. We didn't include that.
No, we include that, but that's not going to build. That's not going to build the equity side. He's talking about the total equity, and I found the slide here.
Okay.
So here, when he says 5th-year returns, we talked about, hey, 5 years out. So when you sell it, and how like a turnkey and investor would buy it.
Oh yeah.
Yes, their cash flows would be around $30,000 in year 5. They'll made out close to $150,000 cash flow from year to 5. Total equity, that's down payment
plus the cash flow.
No, not cash flow. This is just equity in the property. So down payment plus appreciation plus debt pay down. Yeah, so that's where that number came from.
Okay.
I'm like, looking at the slide now, that's where that came from.
Thanks for the slide.
Well, you're welcome.
That's a good question.
I know. That's a
at the end of 5 years, where does that money come from? Bam, right there.
All right. Well, Terrance, just so you know,
how many people said that's a great question?
Guys,
how many people are trying to mock Terrance?
Yeah. I was gonna say,
should ever mock
we've been bashing that.
Yeah.
So
he's the best.
So someone said, guys, we have thick skin on YouTube, so we roll with it. But there are a lot of great comments.
I may go cry.
And Terrance, I'll end on this note. From Pretty Boy 354.
Dude, I've been waiting for Pretty Boy to weigh in.
Said, love this episode. Definitely learned a lot from Terrance. He's a smart guy and knows his real estate. Keep up the great work.
Boom, Pretty Boy.
True.
That's what I'm talking about.
That was actually me.
Yeah. So I think we end on that because I know we were having some fun with the great questions. So.
Been taking some heat. I needed a pat on the back. Appreciate it.
Pretty Boy. You guys are the best. So you shouldn't take heat from nobody.
It's YouTube. You got to.
Yeah, it's true.
You got to roll and have fun.
You know you're doing it right if you're getting heat on YouTube.
That means they actually watched it. If someone says how many times I said a great question, that means they watched the whole thing. They paid attention.
That's great.
Yeah. And plus, honestly, if that's the worst thing YouTube is saying about us, we did a really good job.
What's a synonym for great? What's a synonym for great? I need another.
Excellent. That's an excellent question.
Excellent question.
Doesn't have the same excellent pregunta.
Yeah, I could get Spanish. I could go Spanish on it.
So here's my prediction. We already have
go bilingual.
6 of these recorded and 5, and only one's been out. The great question is going to be a repeating theme.
Yeah, because I think I was actually trying to reduce the number of times I said it on this one because the ones before I was saying it way more. So it'll be interesting to see.
How often do you guys film real estate right along now?
To be determined with COVID.
Yeah.
So what we did, we recorded. You were in the first 1 and 2. And then we recorded 4, the next, 2 in January and 2 in February or so. So you were December, January, February, and then, COVID hit.
Yeah.
And so once we get some feedback from Bigger Pockets, all the links on YouTube, hopefully we can record. Our goal is to record 2 a month.
2 a month, yeah.
That's our goal, but that depends on COVID.
Call me.
Okay. Got to upgrade to Pro, though.
Yeah, well.
I'm pretty sure it's a requirement of Bigger Pockets.
Aren't you not on Pro?
I'm working on it.
Didn't we just talk about?
I'm in the process.
Not even on it?
Ooh,
Terrance is going to upgrade both of us to Pro later.
All right, guys. Okay. Well, this was great questions on here. Terrance, thank you. Athena, thank you. This has been fun.
You guys. I appreciate you as always.
Nice work. Boom.
You
nailed it. You nailed it.
All right, guys. So if you guys are listening and watching, check out the future iLong shows. We got 6 recorded right now. The time we're doing this, releasing one every week until mid-July in Bigger Pockets. Once that's over, we will record more, hopefully. If you guys follow along, ask questions, give us feedback on the format, the content. We want to make the show about learning. As always, if you guys are interested in being a ride-along show, there should be a link in the show notes on about a Bigger Pockets forum that we have posted there, or email me. If you guys are interested in buying properties, I know we had a few people reach out wanting to buy this property off of here. Reach out to us. I mean, this one's gone, but there's always something else to be found.
There's going to be many more.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.